I still remember how my knees gave out when I saw the picture. My husband, my Derek, was gripping a woman's waist like it belonged to him, pulling her mouth into his right outside a motel. Not a hotel, not a getaway resort, a damn cheap roadside motel off Highway 71. His tie was undone. Her blouse was halfway off. His hand was inside it. The timestamp said Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. He had told me he was in Dallas for a leadership retreat. My soul shattered into a million jagged pieces. That was the moment I knew, the man I married, the man I gave 15 years of my life to, had not just changed, he had become a stranger I could no longer love. Pushpin before we go any deeper. Thank you all so much for subscribing to this channel. Your support means the world to me. And to all our new and returning viewers who have not yet hit that subscribe button, I truly cannot wait for you to do it. Your subscription is the fuel that powers this channel, and I promise to keep delivering the raw, romantic, intense, and transparent stories you all crave. Please do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Your reactions, opinions, and experiences are what keep this space alive. I read every one of them. Now, let us dive in. My name is Claire Weston. I am 38 years old. I live in the suburbs of Austin, Texas, in a house with white walls, big windows, and the lie of a happy marriage sitting in every photo frame. I met Derek Weston when I was 21 and too naive to understand that love should come with conditions. He was charming, funny, 10 years older, already climbing the corporate ladder with the kind of confidence that turns heads. I was a junior intern at a charity event when he asked me to dance. By 23, I was married. By 27, I was a mother. We had a son, Dylan, our bright, sensitive, Lego-obsessed boy. I gave up my job to raise him. I made our home beautiful, built a life around Derek's schedule, packed his suits, ironed his shirts, massaged his feet when he came home, exhausted from work. But 2 years ago, things began to shift. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. I blamed his coldness on stress, the late nights on promotions. I ignored the password change on his phone. I dismissed the cologne I had never bought him. One night, we made love, and it felt like I was making love to an empty vessel. He touched me with mechanical grace, not passion. His eyes never met mine. When it was over, he rolled over and went to sleep like I had been a task crossed off a to-do list. That was the night I cried into my pillow, the sound muffled by my shame. I told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe this was just what happened to marriages after 15 years. But things kept piling up. Late-night text messages. Receipts for dinners I had never eaten. Cold showers. No more spontaneous touches. No more I love you-s. And then, one evening, I found a lipstick-stained napkin in his briefcase. The scent was strong, like vanilla and smoke. It was not mine. That night, I made a decision that would unravel everything. His name was Sean Matthews. I found him through a friend who had gone through something similar. He was direct, professional, and made no promises, but his eyes held a quiet fire I recognized. I handed him everything, Derek's travel logs, credit card receipts, his new work schedule, and even the time he claimed to be golfing every Sunday morning. Sean took it all and told me to give him 10 days. Those 10 days felt like 10 years of slow death. I walked around the house like a ghost. I smiled for Dylan. I cooked dinner. I answered texts from Derek that read, "Love you, babe. Be home late." I felt like vomiting every time his name popped up on my phone. On the 10th day, Sean called. He said, "I have something you need to see. In person." We met in a coffee shop downtown. Sean slid a manila envelope across the table. He looked like he pitied me, and I hated that. But I needed the truth more than I needed dignity. I opened it. And there it was. Photo after photo. Video footage. Receipts. Hotel bookings. Her name. Her name was Elise Harper. And that was what made my heart stop. Because Elise was not some stranger. She was my yoga partner. My neighbor. My friend. We had wine together just 2 weeks ago. She had asked me for skincare tips. She told me how lucky I was to have such a hot and hard-working husband. She was smiling in the photos too. One of them showed her sitting on Derek's lap in his car, tongue down his throat. My hands began to shake. I looked up at Sean, but I could not speak. The betrayal was not just marital. It was a violation of every sacred space I had built. I drove home in silence. Dylan was at a friend's house for a sleepover. Derek texted me, "Flight landed. Be home in an hour. Missed you." I put down my phone. I walked to my bathroom, turned on the light, stared at myself in the mirror, and whispered one sentence. "I am going to destroy both of you." Then I opened the cabinet under the sink, and pulled out the small black box I had hidden there since the week before. Inside was my wedding ring, and a spare phone Sean had given me. The screen lit up with new footage. And what I saw made me fall to my knees. When I said I fell to my knees, I meant it. My body collapsed, not from weakness but from the kind of pain that short-circuits the mind. I had seen betrayal before, in movies, in books, in stories whispered over drinks. But nothing had prepared me for the pain of seeing my husband, the man whose child I birthed, whose dreams I carried, sitting shirtless on a motel bed, laughing with Elise as she poured wine into his mouth. The motel room was tacky, cheap floral curtains, wood-paneled headboard, and that same red lamp I saw in all the photos Sean gave me. I studied Derek's bare chest, his familiar scar above his rib from a biking accident. Elise leaned over him, her hands down the front of his pants. They were so comfortable, so practiced, so shameless. I watched that video 10 times. I needed to burn the image into my memory. I needed to bury the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was all a misunderstanding. By the 5th replay, something inside me turned cold. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the hallway of our house, clutching that phone like it held the last breath of my old life. Derek returned home close to midnight. I heard the garage door open. I listened as he walked in, whistling softly, dropping his suitcase by the door like he had just come from saving the world. He poked his head into the hallway. I made sure he could not see the tears in my eyes. "You are still up?" he asked. I nodded and forced a smile. "Could not sleep." He kissed my forehead and said, "I will shower." Exhausted. Then he disappeared down the hallway. And that was when I realized, he was not even trying to lie convincingly anymore. I heard the water run, and I imagined Elise under that stream with him, her back arched, his mouth on her skin. My stomach churned. I ran to the guest bathroom and threw up. The next morning, I went through old photos. My mind clung to the memory of our last wedding anniversary. Derek had surprised me with a dinner at a rooftop restaurant. He handed me a small velvet box with a sapphire pendant and whispered, "15 years, Claire. You are still the only woman I want." But now I knew that on that very day, Sean's report showed Derek checked into a motel with Elise that morning before coming home to me. He made love to her, then celebrated our marriage. I had kissed him that night. I had undressed him. I had poured wine and whispered how lucky I felt. Every touch, every moan, every whispered, "I love you," it was all built on a lie. I could not cry anymore. The tears had dried. My heart had turned to dust. I called Sean the next morning. I told him I needed the full report, everything he had. I wanted the receipts, the hotel reservations, the photos, the digital trail. I wanted it all printed, not emailed. I wanted to hold their betrayal in my hands. Sean delivered it in a thick brown envelope, and I read every page at my kitchen table while Derek was at work. He had taken Elise to a weekend retreat in San Antonio, where he had told me it was a sales summit. A spa resort in Fredericksburg, where he claimed he was mentoring new recruits. And worst of all, the same cabin in Colorado where he took me for our honeymoon 15 years ago. That was the moment my fingers went numb. That cabin had been ours. That memory had been sacred. I remembered how I bled on those sheets for the first time as his wife. How I wept from both pain and joy. Now Elise had moaned in those sheets. He had erased me from the places we had built our love. I did not scream. I did not throw plates or sob at his feet. I had seen enough movies to know that kind of drama only gives them more power. Instead, I waited. When Derek walked through the door that night, I was in the kitchen stirring soup. He came up behind me, kissed my neck, and asked, "Smells good." "What is it?" I turned around. "Chicken and truth." He laughed. "What?" I handed him the thick brown envelope. "Your lies, printed and bound." His eyes scanned the contents. For a second, I watched the blood drain from his face. He tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "Do not lie. Not anymore. Just tell me how long." His lips trembled. Then he said, "It just happened, a few times. I made a mistake." I stared at him. "You have been sleeping with Elise for almost 10 months. There are hotel bills, Derek. Your signature is on every one of them." Then something snapped in him. The mask fell. He threw the envelope on the counter and shouted, "Fine. Yes. I did it. Because I am tired of being ignored in my own house. You are always either obsessing over Dylan or micromanaging me. Elise makes me feel free." Those words felt like a slap. "Ignored?" I whispered. "You mean the dinners? The massages? The weekends I begged you to talk to me while you stared at your phone? Was I ignoring you when I took care of your dying father? Or when I held you through your panic attacks?" His face twisted in guilt, but I did not care anymore. "You destroyed our marriage for a woman who pretends to like yoga and moans like a porn star in a Motel 6. He slapped the counter and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. And that was when I realized something important. He was not sorry. He was only sorry he got caught. The next morning, Elise had the nerve to show up at my house. She wore a white crop top and yoga pants like she had just come from class. Her hair was tied up, and she smiled like a cheerleader. "Claire," she said sweetly, "I think we should talk." Woman to woman. I stared at her. I wanted to rip her face off. But I took a deep breath and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. She went on, "I never meant for it to go this far. Derek was lonely, and you were always so perfect. I guess I just wanted to feel loved." I looked at her long and hard. "Elise," I said, "you do not get to stand on my porch and speak about love. You are a cheap, opportunistic parasite who feeds on broken marriages." Her face reddened. "You know what? You were always cold. Maybe if you had satisfied him, he would not have needed me." And with that, I did something I had not done in 15 years of marriage. I slapped someone. Hard. She stumbled back, her hand on her cheek, her mouth gaping. I leaned in and whispered, "Get off my porch before I drag your bones down this driveway." She left. But the war had only begun. That night, I tucked Dylan into bed. He hugged me tight and whispered, "You are the best mom in the world." I kissed his forehead and told him I loved him more than anything. Then I walked into the living room, poured myself a glass of wine, and opened the small black box. Inside it was not just the phone. There was also a flash drive Sean had given me earlier that day. And something else, a second report. One that revealed Elise's real history. I had told Sean to dig deeper. And he found something unbelievable. Elise had done this before. 3 times. 3 neighborhoods. 3 divorces. And 1 man. He took his own life after she blackmailed him. That was when I realized. Derek was not her lover. He was her target. And now? I was about to become her reckoning. They always say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I did not want it cold. I wanted it raw. I wanted it scorched with truth, plated with disgrace, and served in front of the entire damn neighborhood. The moment I saw Elisa's full background report, a new fire lit inside me. She was not some heartbroken housewife who got too close to the wrong man. She was a professional destroyer. Her first victim? A married surgeon who ended up in rehab after she leaked intimate photos to his board. Her second? A firefighter, divorced, broke, and now living in a trailer park after Elise drained his savings through a business loan. Her third? A real estate broker who killed himself after she recorded him in bed and threatened to expose the footage unless he paid her $100,000. And now, she had slithered into my life like the snake she was. But what she did not know was that she had picked the wrong wife this time. I called Sean the next day and told him I needed him to do one more thing, just one. I want to know who Elise really is. Everything. Her records, her finances, her aliases, all of it. Sean did not hesitate. I already started. 2 days later, I had enough data to feed an army of lawyers. Elise was operating under a fake name. Her real name was Rebecca Pierce. Her criminal record had been sealed in another state. She used burner phones, multiple Venmo accounts, and at least 2 Airbnb listings tied to other people's credit cards. She had done this like a game. With each man, she played a role: the fragile soul, the misunderstood girl next door, the desperate single mom. It was all an act. And Derek was just her next checkmate. I told Sean to compile everything neatly, legally. I was going to use it, not for the courts, not for revenge. I was going to ruin them the way they had ruined me, without even touching them. It began slowly. First, I contacted Elisa's last victim's sister, who now ran a wellness blog. I told her Elise, real name Rebecca, was up to her tricks again. I sent her photos, documentation, and my investigator's findings. She promised to do something with it. And she did. She wrote a full exposé titled, "The Mistress Who Destroys Men, a Neighborhood Predator in Yoga Pants." It went viral in our town in 2 days. I watched Elisa's face pale as people stared at her at the supermarket. Then, I sent the same documents to the HOA board anonymously. Elise had lied about her identity to move into our neighborhood. That violated HOA rules. She received an eviction notice within a week. But I was not done. While Elisa's world burned, I turned to the man who lit the match. I took every receipt Sean had given me. Every timestamp showing how Derek used company time and resources for his sexual adventures. I put them in a leather folder and mailed them anonymously to his boss. I did not stop there. I sent the intimate photos, blurred for privacy but still damning, along with the motel bookings Derek signed with his corporate credit card. 3 days later, Derek came home early, pale and shaking. "They let me go," he whispered. They said I violated company policy. Someone sent them pictures. I lost everything, Claire. My pension, my bonuses, my shares, gone. I sipped my tea and said, "Good." He looked at me like he did not know me anymore. And for the first time in years, that felt right. But here is what nobody knew, not Derek, not Elise, not even Sean at first. While I was unraveling their world, something had been happening in mine. It began the night I broke down in Sean's office. I had cried into his shoulder, and he did not pull away. Days later, he had brought me groceries when I said I was too drained to go out. Weeks later, we had wine at his apartment. One thing led to another. And then? One morning, I woke up in Sean's bed. My hair messy. My soul lighter. My body sore from a night I never thought I would deserve again. It was not just sex. It was healing. I told myself I would stop. That it was just comfort. But comfort became something more. And I realized something shocking. I had fallen for the man I hired to catch my husband. Elise, excuse me, Rebecca, showed up at my door again, this time without her arrogant smirk. She was red-eyed, her bags were packed, and her voice cracked. You ruined my life, she said. I opened the door wide and smiled. No, Rebecca. I exposed your truth. I lost everything. The HOA kicked me out. My bank account was frozen. The blog you leaked ruined my job. I have nowhere to go. I handed her a small envelope. Inside was a list of shelters and abuse centers. Yes, I still had a heart. But that was all I was willing to give. Leave now, or I will press charges. She left, dragging her suitcase like it weighed 1,000 pounds. And I stood taller than I ever had in years. Derek begged. He cried. He even blamed Elise, called her a witch, said he had been manipulated. He asked if we could try again, for Dylan's sake. I asked him one question. Would you have ever stopped if you were not caught? He could not answer. That was my answer. I handed him the divorce papers, signed and sealed. You lost me, Derek. And now, I want you to feel what it is like to be alone. It has been 6 months. Derek moved to Houston, living with his brother. Elisa's blog story still circulates every few weeks when someone reposts it in our local Facebook group. Nobody sees her around here anymore. Dylan is thriving. He knows something happened, but I protect him from the full truth. He does not need to carry the weight of adult betrayals. And Sean? Sean and I are taking it slow. There is no rush. There is no label. But when he kisses me, he does it with eyes wide open. No secrets. No lies. Just truth. I noticed a change in my husband's behavior. It was not sudden. It was slow, deliberate, rotting our marriage from the inside. And when I chose to find the truth, I lost the man I thought I loved. But in losing him, I found myself. And that, my friends, was the greatest gift betrayal ever gave me.